The episode of The View started like any other: lively music, bright lights, and a full studio audience eager for candid conversation. Carrie Underwood was the featured guest, set to discuss her new album and upcoming tour. She arrived smiling, dressed elegantly, radiating confidence. The panel welcomed her warmly, at least at first. No one in the room could have predicted the exchange that would soon dominate headlines worldwide. Joy Behar, known for her sharp wit and unfiltered opinions, greeted Carrie with friendly humor. "We don't often get country royalty here," she quipped, earning a round of applause. Carrie laughed politely, always gracious in interviews. The opening minutes went smoothly, a light conversation, talk about songwriting, family, and her Las Vegas residency. But the tone began to shift when Joy brought up a topic Carrie hadn't planned to discuss: her views on social and political issues. "You've made headlines for staying quiet about certain things," Joy began. "Don't you think artists have a responsibility to speak up?" The audience murmured. Carrie's expression didn't change, but her eyes told a story. She'd been asked this before and knew where it was heading. She replied calmly, "I think everyone has the right to choose when and how they speak. I prefer to let my music talk for me." Joy smiled thinly. "But silence can be interpreted too, can't it?" she pressed. The tension in the room thickened. Whoopi Goldberg glanced between them, sensing the brewing storm. Carrie remained composed but firm. "Well, I'd rather be misinterpreted for being quiet than for saying something I don't mean," she replied. The audience clapped lightly, divided between support and discomfort. Joy leaned forward. "But don't you think people look up to you? Staying silent can feel like a statement too," she added. Carrie took a slow breath, her voice, calm but edged, cut through the chatter. "With respect, Joy, I sing. That's my job. I'm not a politician." A few audience members cheered, while others gasped. The friendly banter was over. The interview had turned into a debate. Whoopi jumped in to ease the tension, but Joy wasn't done. "I just think using your platform matters," she said pointedly. Carrie nodded once. "And I use mine every day, to spread hope, not hostility." The words landed with quiet power. Joy smirked slightly, sensing she'd been challenged. The air crackled with tension. The audience leaned in, hanging on every word. The rest of the panel tried steering the discussion back to music, but Joy brought it up again. "You know, avoiding tough topics can sometimes look like privilege," she said. Carrie's composure slipped for the first time. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice rising. "I've worked my whole life to get here." "Don't call that privilege." The audience erupted, some cheering, some whispering. The calm country star was showing fire. Joy tried to clarify, but Carrie interrupted. "You don't know me," she said, eyes locked on Joy. "You don't know what I've been through, what I believe, or why I choose what I share." The room went still. The normally controlled artist was visibly upset now. Whoopi reached over gently and said, "Let's all take a breath." But the moment had already exploded online as viewers clipped the exchange in real time. Producers quickly cut to commercial, but backstage, tensions flared further. Witnesses later said Carrie stood up, pacing, while Joy remained seated. "You invited me here to talk about music, not politics," Carrie said. Joy replied, "I asked what the audience wanted to know." The argument was brief but intense, their voices echoing off the studio walls. When the cameras returned, both looked visibly shaken. Carrie smiled tightly as the show resumed. "We're live, right?" she said, forcing a laugh. The audience chuckled nervously. Joy offered a half-smile, trying to move on. But the energy in the room was fragile. Kelly Clarkson, another guest that day, would later say the air felt like glass ready to crack. The rest of the segment went on, but viewers could see the strain behind every polite word. Once the episode ended, Carrie left the set quickly, avoiding the press waiting outside. Social media was already ablaze. Hashtags like #CarrieOnTheView and #JoyVs.Carrie trended within minutes. Fans defended Carrie fiercely, calling Joy's comments disrespectful. Others sided with Joy, arguing that celebrities can't separate art from influence. It was the debate of the week: passion versus politics. That night, clips of the confrontation dominated YouTube and TikTok. Some edited the footage with dramatic music, others posted analysis videos. On Twitter, fans quoted Carrie's line, "I spread hope, not hostility, turning it into a rallying cry. Within hours, major entertainment outlets covered the story. Headlines framed it as a fiery clash, though those present said it was tense but human. The next morning, Joy Behar addressed the controversy on The View. "We had a passionate exchange," she said. "Carrie's entitled to her opinion, and I'm entitled to mine." She smiled, but viewers noticed she didn't apologize. Online, reactions were mixed. Some praised Joy for standing her ground, while others accused her of provoking a guest for ratings. Carrie's camp released a short statement through her publicist. Carrie Underwood values respectful dialogue and remains focused on her music and fans. It was brief, polished, and pointedly avoided mention of Joy. But fans read between the lines. Carrie's silence afterwards spoke louder than any post could. She didn't tweet, didn't comment. She let the world argue without her. Behind the scenes, sources close to the show revealed that producers reached out privately to Carrie's team to smooth things over. One insider said, "They didn't expect it to go that far. Carrie's one of the kindest people you'll meet, but she doesn't like being cornered." The producers reportedly feared she might refuse future invitations, a loss for a show that thrives on star power. Joy, meanwhile, faced a new wave of backlash online. Critics accused her of pushing too hard, especially given Carrie's reputation for positivity. Some fans began flooding The View's social pages demanding an apology. "She was there to talk about music, not politics," one viewer wrote. Others argued that Joy was just doing her job, sparking a heated divide between both fandoms. As days passed, analysts and journalists dissected the moment. Talk show experts called it a perfect storm of miscommunication. They noted how both women represented different cultural worlds, Joy's political candor versus Carrie's quiet conviction. It wasn't just a clash of personalities, it was a clash of values, amplified by millions watching live. Within a week, the story had grown beyond entertainment. Opinion pieces appeared in magazines and blogs, debating celebrity responsibility, faith, and free speech. Carrie, known for her faith-based lyrics, became a symbol for artists who choose privacy over politics. Joy, meanwhile, was praised by some as fearless and criticized by others as tone-deaf. The internet had turned one tense moment into a cultural conversation. A few weeks later, Carrie finally addressed the situation during an interview on a country radio show. "I think people see a few seconds and make up their minds," she said gently. "I have nothing against Joy. We just see the world differently. That's okay." Her tone was calm, mature, and measured, exactly what fans loved about her. The statement immediately cooled much of the tension. Joy later responded on The View. "I respect Carrie," she said simply. "She handled herself well." For the first time, the audience applauded without hesitation. It wasn't a formal apology, but it was acknowledgement. Both women had moved on, but the internet's memory lingered. The clip continued to circulate, gaining millions of views months after it aired. Meanwhile, Carrie poured her energy into her music. Her next single, released shortly after the controversy, was titled "Stand Quiet, Stand Tall." Though she never confirmed the inspiration, fans believed it referenced her View appearance. The song's lyrics about grace under pressure and staying true to oneself resonated deeply, climbing the charts quickly. Critics praised the track as one of Carrie's most powerful statements yet. "Without naming names, she addressed everything," one reviewer wrote. "It's Carrie's answer and melody instead of debate." Fans around the world felt vindicated, saying she had turned conflict into art. Joy herself even mentioned the song on air, saying, "It's a good one." Maybe she was right to let her music do the talking. Over time, the confrontation faded from the headlines, replaced by news stories and controversies. But among fans, the moment became part of Carrie's legacy, a proof that kindness doesn't mean weakness. Her calm, firm defense of her boundaries became a defining moment for her career, one that elevated her beyond pop country fame into a symbol of quiet strength. Producers at The View later admitted the exchange changed their approach to guests. They reportedly introduced new guidelines encouraging hosts to stay closer to approved topics. It was a rare instance where the guest's reaction reshaped the show's future. For Carrie, it was validation that even a soft voice can create powerful change when it stands firm. A year later, when Joy and Carrie crossed paths again at an awards event, Witnesses said they exchanged smiles and a brief hug. There were no cameras, no microphones, just two professionals acknowledging the past. "We're good," Joy reportedly said. Carrie nodded, and that was that. The story had come full circle, closing on mutual respect instead of rivalry. In later interviews, Carrie reflected on the experience as a turning point. "It reminded me that standing for yourself doesn't have to be loud," she said. "It just has to be honest." Her words were quoted across magazines, turned into motivational posts, and even referenced in fan-made edits online. The explosion on The View had become a lesson in composure. Joy, too, acknowledged that the interview taught her something. "Sometimes we forget guests aren't politicians," she said in a candid podcast appearance. "I respect Carrie for holding her ground." The admission humanized Joy, showing humility behind her outspoken persona. Audiences appreciated the growth on both sides, a proof that disagreement doesn't have to destroy mutual respect. As months passed, both women returned to their usual routines, Carrie touring and recording, Joy hosting and debating. Yet the shadow of that unforgettable episode lingered as a cautionary tale for other talk shows. It reminded everyone that live television, with its unpredictability, can reveal more truth than scripts ever could. Fans still reference that moment when discussing authenticity in celebrity interviews. "That's what real looks like," one viewer wrote on YouTube years later. Two strong women standing for what they believe in. What had started as a clash became an enduring reminder that differences don't always mean disrespect, sometimes they mean honesty. In the end, Carrie Underwood's explosion on The View wasn't about anger. It was about conviction, a woman refusing to be boxed into labels or expectations. And Joy Behar's persistence wasn't malice, but curiosity taken one step too far. Their clash became more than a viral headline. It became a story about integrity, understanding, and the fragile balance between expression and respect in front of a live audience. As the years went by, the episode became a case study in television media circles. Producers and journalists cited it as an example of how easily live interviews can veer off script when personalities collide. Media students analyzed Carrie's composure under pressure and Joy's relentless pursuit of dialogue, calling it a defining moment in unscripted television. It wasn't just celebrity gossip anymore, it was studied as communication under fire. Carrie's team, meanwhile, made sure to keep the focus on her music. Her next few projects highlighted empowerment and individuality, echoing the quiet resilience she showed that day. In fan interviews, she gracefully dodged further questions about Joy or The View, instead redirecting conversations toward gratitude and growth. It was a masterclass in public relations, firm, elegant, and rooted in authenticity. Fans noticed how Carrie seemed freer after the incident. In concerts, her confidence radiated more than ever. She began opening up more on stage, and not about controversies, but about perseverance and faith. The confrontation had, in a way, strengthened her. It gave her fans a real-life moment that matched the strength of the characters in her songs. Every performance now carried that extra layer of truth. On social media, clips of the episode resurfaced every few months, especially when new celebrity clashes occurred. Viewers drew comparisons, saying, "No one handled it better than Carrie." The video became a template for grace under fire, how to stay calm, assert boundaries, and walk away with dignity intact. Even critics admitted that Carrie's reaction had aged well, her words still relevant in today's polarized world. Joy Behar also grew from the experience. In a later interview, she confessed that the exchange taught her to balance curiosity with empathy. "Sometimes we get caught up in the debate and forget there's a person sitting across from us," she said. It was a rare moment of vulnerability from Joy, and audiences appreciated it. The lesson resonated deeply with both fans and colleagues across television. Despite the initial tension, the public gradually began to view the incident as a moment of mutual learning rather than pure conflict. Commentators pointed out that both women represented strong voices, one outspoken and fiery, the other composed and steadfast. The encounter showed that strength comes in many forms, whether it's through challenging questions or calm defiance. Over time, The story transformed from scandal to inspiration. Young artists began referencing Carrie's interview as a model for handling tough questions. Communication coaches cited it in workshops about staying professional under pressure. The clip evolved from viral drama to a timeless example of integrity in the face of provocation, showing how authenticity could turn controversy into legacy. Carrie's next major award acceptance speech hinted at the experience without naming it. "Sometimes grace speaks louder than words," she said on stage, smiling softly. The crowd erupted in applause, recognizing the reference instantly. It was a subtle yet powerful nod to the moment that had tested her poise and defined her public image. She had turned what could have been chaos into quiet triumph. Meanwhile, The View continued its legacy of fiery discussions, but producers were noticeably more mindful about tone and topics. The show leaned into open-ended questions instead of pointed challenges, allowing guests more space to express themselves freely. Insiders credited the Carrie moment for reshaping how high-profile interviews were approached on live daytime television. Joy later admitted that her fiery personality often led her into uncomfortable moments, but she maintained that tension sometimes brings truth. "People tune in for honesty," she said, "and honesty isn't always neat." Though her commentary ignited debate, most viewers appreciated her candor. It was clear that both she and Carrie had come out stronger and wiser from the storm they shared. Years later, the clip was featured in a documentary about unforgettable TV moments. The narrator described it as a rare instance where disagreement became dialogue. Critics praised both women for showing the humanity behind celebrity facades. Unlike many viral clashes that end in bitterness, this one ended in growth, a proof that conflict doesn't always destroy, sometimes it refines. Carrie herself reflected on it during her memoir's release. In one chapter, she wrote, "That day reminded me that peace doesn't mean silence. It means choosing calm when the world expects chaos." The line struck a chord with readers. Fans underlined it, shared it online, and turned it into motivational posts. Carrie had finally put the experience into words, reclaiming it completely on her terms. When the two appeared on the same red carpet years later, reporters held their breath, expecting tension. But instead, they exchanged a few friendly words and smiled for photos. The image spread quickly online, captioned "Time heals everything." The moment silenced years of speculation, proving that what started as confrontation had ended in understanding and maturity. Entertainment media revisited the story in retrospectives, often calling it one of daytime television's most unforgettable exchanges. It was no longer framed as scandal, but as evolution, a moment when two strong voices clashed, learned, and ultimately respected each other. Even Joy joked about it years later, saying, "If I can survive Carrie Underwood, I can survive anything." In the end, the explosion that once shook The View became a symbol of composure, integrity, and the power of perspective. Carrie Underwood walked away not as a victim of media attention, but as a woman who turned conflict into clarity. And Joy Behar, in her own way, grew too. Their story became more than a headline. It became a reminder that truth, when spoken with grace, can outlast any storm.